Here we go. What up, everybody? This is Brown Liquor and Cigars podcast, and we got Carlos.
Hey, what's up?
And we got Tracey in the house.
Hello.
And we got Omar.
Yeah, what's up, guys?
And we happy to have y'all both back
Yes.
in with us on the show. So we excited about it, and we got some good stuff that we talking about today. We already kind of like chatted about it a little bit before.
He's already heated.
Here we go.
We kicked off the show or whatever. So I was watching this show called Younger, and there's one episode where the guy, he proposes to the woman, and she tells him no. She tells him no. And they're both in love. They've gone through a lot and everything, but both of them have been married before. Her marriage ended. Well, both of their marriages ended poorly. So his stance is he wants a partner, a lifelong commitment. Mm-hmm. And I get it. She doesn't want to be married, but she wants to be in a relationship with him. She loves him, but she do not want to make that commitment of marriage. She does not want to do that. So when that happens, he says, well, we can't be anything. So she asked him, because she was like highly offended because he said, we can't be together. So she thought he did her wrong and everything. So she wanted him to bend more to what she wanted. And he was completely against that.
Good for him.
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah. So she wanted him to be in. So he ends the relationship based off the fact that she didn't want to be married because he didn't want to waste his time on someone. Well, like invest, we're not going to say waste his time, but invest all his time and energy into someone that has no end goal. Because marriage was the end goal for him. So Tracey and Omar, I know Omar has been married before. And Tracey, you've been in a long-term relationship before.
Correct.
And everything. But I know both of you guys want to be married again. Married. Like,
Yes,
so,
sir.
Thinking about
in
it.
the world,
maybe not.
in the world today, we would call you guys more of intentional daters.
Yes.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
100%.
Your intent is marriage, and if you're not getting married, you're just going to move on to the next.
Yes.
So, Tracey, when you date a guy starting out, do you tell him you want to be married?
Yes.
You go in saying you want to be married?
I pretty much go in pretty soon. And I say that because there are different types of relationships nowadays, and time invested is time invested. So if you're investing time in someone that has absolutely no interest in marriage, that's already from the jump a waste of time.
But what if they want to not like the woman? And like me, I don't want to be married, but I don't mind having a long-term relationship. I want to be in a relationship. I just don't want to be married.
Right.
I've had great marriage, and I know a lot of times people think, oh, well, you haven't had good examples of marriage. I haven't had great examples of marriage. My parents was married almost 40 years up until my dad passed. So, and my sisters, they've all been married. My youngest sister, she just celebrated 30 years of marriage this week. So I've seen beautiful marriages before. I just don't want it. So if you have someone that's similar to that don't want to be married, but they're willing to commit to you, give you everything that a marriage would give you, just not give you that piece of paper, you feel that's a waste of time?
It is, because it doesn't meet the ultimate goal. It doesn't meet if my end goal is marriage, and you have absolutely no interest in marriage, then why would I invest time?
Amen.
Because
sister.
that's time away from the person that's waiting, that wants
So you
the same
would,
end goal.
And not saying that you're alone. Okay, well, look, you are alone
I'm
because
alone.
you're not in a relationship.
Right.
You're not in a
That's
relationship,
true.
but you are alone, just not lonely. Let's make that clear, because
Right.
so many people get the two mixed up. They think if you're alone, you're lonely. That's not your case.
Correct.
So you would risk being alone opposed to being in a relationship with someone that is willing to commit to you, just not give you that paper.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Go.
And one of the reasons for that is we all know this because we've probably all experienced this. You can be in a long-term relationship with someone and you get attached and you want more. Mm-hmm. So again, if that person's end game is not what your end game is, don't even invest the time. That's time wasted. And especially when you get my age. I mean, I'm over 40. I'm closer to 50.
But
we ain't got time.
Okay,
we ain't got time for that.
Okay, so I get what you're saying. I hear clearly what you're saying, but okay, we're gonna come back to that because it's like I get what you're saying about if they don't want to be married, then it's the waste of your time. But you're living a good life with this person. You just don't have a piece of paper. You would give them an ultimatum and walk away from that if they did not give you a ring and you've been dating them 3 years.
It's more than a piece of paper.
So you will walk away from a situation after 3 years. Just going to put that 3-year number on there. 1 for the Father, 2 for the Son, 3 for the Holy Spirit. You will walk away from that relationship after 3 years if he hadn't progressed to marriage.
Correct.
I call bullshit.
So this is the thing with that. If I am sticking with what I want now during that time frame, you know, your feelings could change. Yeah. But if I, at the beginning of that relationship, want marriage as my end game, and we continue for the 3 years, and my goal is still marriage as the end game, and his goal is not. No, I'm not going to invest any more time. If he is adamant that he will never...
What if the relationship is good at 3 years? It's like amazing. Y'all traveling the world. He's, he's supporting you better than any man before.
That's what friends are for. That's what friends are for.
Okay, well, let us know how that work out for you. Let us know how you work out for you. So, Omar, we're going to move on over to you because I'm calling bullshit here. So, and I'm going to come back and explain that.
Okay.
So, Omar... So you said you're an intentional dater and you kudos the man for saying breaking it off because she didn't want to marry him. Are you that dude? Do you go into relationships, want to be married, and if a woman don't want to be married to you, you're unwilling to date her?
Yes, correct.
And why?
Just because, like, in the process of knowing who you are, obviously you have a direction, you have values and goals that you want to accomplish, right? And marriage being one of those. And if the person that you're dating has different goals, different values, then it's kind of trying to fit like a piece of the puzzle that doesn't go there. So why would I not move on, potentially hindering somebody else that can fit, in my puzzle the way it should be, right? And I that's my thinking as far as why I would break it off.
Okay, so I'm going to be a devil's advocate here a little bit. So if you met a woman and you come into her and you tell her, I want to be married. Mm-hmm. And if you're not going to marry me, then we can't date. Because you're not going to be her friend if she doesn't want to marry you, right? You're going to cut it off completely, right?
Well, okay, so I think there's a difference, right? Obviously, if you come in with the intentions and you're direct as to, hey, I'm dating with a purpose, right? And go be in marriage. And if that person's like, hey, me too, or hey, I'm just casually dating, then at that time I can weigh the pros and cons and either...
So if she says she's casually dating, are you going to just drop her then?
See, that's what I would weigh the pros and cons and see if
now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
Go ahead, go with it.
Yeah, and if it's something that I can potentially see that can progress to more towards my goals and where I want it to go.
You guys are already on different paths because you're purposely dating and she's casually dating. Those are
then it'll probably be
two
a
different
no.
mindsets. Right. So you wouldn't be her friend if she was...
I wouldn't be her friend. I would potentially continue dating her depending on what kind of dating I'm doing with that person.
Okay, so if a woman came to you and said, because you're divorced, and then she came to you and said, well, Omar, your first marriage didn't work.
Right.
And there was 2 people in the marriage and it didn't work. Mm-hmm. You're one of the people that were in the marriage.
Right.
What can you guarantee me that this one is going to work? Why should I marry you?
Because I learned my lesson. I'll tell you that. I think it's one of those things that, like, now looking back at it, I don't look at it as a failure. I look at it as a learning experience because it was 13 years and there was some beautiful times and 3 beautiful kids. So obviously, for it to work 13 years, I had to be doing something right. Right.
So are you open to divorce again this time, or is this going to be your forever after?
No, this is like my forever after.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is gonna be, okay.
Yeah, that's why, like, for me, it's really important that, I continue to look at that marriage and see my part of it and continue to grow from that and heal whatever traumas I have from my childhood, from that marriage. That way I don't bring that into the next relationship. And through that particular process, I can also identify a healthy person, right? Because obviously if I'm not healthy, then I'm probably not going to end up with a healthy person emotionally or mentally, right? So whatever vibe I'm given, then that's what I expect to attract.
Right. Okay.
That's true.
So let me ask you this here, Omar. So I asked Tracey this question. So when do you tell a woman you want to be married? Like, how long does it take for you to tell her you want to be married?
I think after man, that's hard, but
Because I think
naturally
the first date.
I would say after a couple of dates, if it comes up, I see like the first couple of dates just getting to know the person, not talk about serious things, just having fun.
Okay,
right,
well,
keeping it light.
Let me
and as it
rephrase that
progresses.
question. Okay, so let me rephrase that question because I think when you go on a date, even in fairness to Tracey, when you go on a date, of course we're going to say we want to be married. Everybody says we want to be married if that's what you want to be. You say you want to be married,
Right.
I hope.
So when do you tell that person I want to be married to you?
Oh.
See, it's a
That's
different.
gonna vary,
Way
yeah.
down the
It's
line.
gonna take some time.
Right.
It's different. See, it's different than saying I want to be married.
Yeah, I think it's like jumping ahead. I think, the ideal progression would be dating and then, committing to a relationship. And then from there, I would say within a year, no more than a year and a half, if it's really going well in the relationship, then, letting it be known that the next step would be marriage.
So you would invest 1 year to 2 years time before
A year to a year and a half.
okay,
tops.
year and year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So when you invest 1 year and a year and a half, and it's been beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, amazing. She cooks great enchiladas.
Yep.
Nope.
Mole.
Yeah,
Yep.
mole. Yeah, and that's not racist. Omar is my brother. I know he loves Mexican food because every time he picks a restaurant, it's Mexican.
Yeah, exactly.
He loves Mexican food, so I know that because we hang out. But so she can lay down in the kitchen.
She's
like,
gone through my mom's cooking boot camp.
Yeah,
that's a requirement.
Mom
3
done
months.
looked up on it, so she knows how to cook. So say for instance, you've been dating her for 1.5 years, and it's beautiful. And then you tell her, I want to be married or move to that next level with you.
Or just propose.
Or propose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, we ain't going to say propose. We're not going to say propose. We're just going to say you start talking about marriage with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, no, that's not where I'm wanting to go right now. Then what happens?
I think in that, I would say for it to be like at 1 year and it's going really well, I think for me, I would want to like caught those flags. I wouldn't say red flags, but those sentiments early on before committing to a long-term relationship. If I've gotten into 1 year in a committed relationship and I don't know by then that she doesn't want to get married or that's the next progression, then I probably missed something early on during that commitment.
But maybe not.
But
Maybe not. Because you went into that situation with you purposely dating and her casually dating.
then I think
So
that
the mindsets going in were already 2 different mindsets. So it may take her a little bit longer to get
right
to that level.
then I
where you are.
would, once I ask her to be in a committed relationship prior to that 1 year, I would want to be up front right there. Hey,
Okay.
I want to be
And-
committed to you with the end goal of marriage.
And what does she say? Hey, Omar, I've been married before,
Okay.
and it didn't work out. And right now, I love you. I want to be with you. We're great. But marriage is not something that I want right now.
Then at that point, it wouldn't be compatible. I would probably like break it off right there.
I call bullshit.
Oh.
Why is that bullshit? Why would you want to invest
Right.
that
Well, you've
time
already
with
invested
someone
time
that
in.
doesn't?
You invested 3 years. 1 for the father, 2 for the son.
but see that's like the difference, right? Because like I've gone through the mentality and through the season of like fuck this marriage, never again. It's bullshit. But looking at other things, like just because you failed at it once doesn't mean you're not going to be successful the second time.
So you're telling me if you went to her and she told you, I don't want to be married.
And she was
And
in that
not-
season.
and
And,
not-
she was in the season where she's like, you know what? Like, no. Because I've been there. So I can relate.
Well, it's
So
not
I
even
know
so
that
much
for
that
me.
she's in the season. It's just that she enjoys what you guys have right now.
Right.
It's great. And you're not complicating things with marriage and the commitment of marriage. Because whether we want to be honest with ourselves or not, when you get married, our mindsets change a little bit. From what I understand from people, both men and women that I've heard, there's a sense of ownership that our mindsets change to when we get married. And if someone has been married and they understand that and they don't want to do that anymore. They want to be in a relationship. They want to be committed to you. They want to love you, all of this stuff. They just don't want
Right.
marriage.
I think that's why
you will
it's-
walk away from it?
Yes, because now doing the work within myself and knowing myself, if I didn't end it there, I know that a year from that time period, if I stuck around, it'd be a huge disappointment to myself. So I'd rather like going through that pain of disappointment in relationship and marriage. It's like, no, I'm doing it now because that memory of that pain, I rather avoid that. So I'm like, hey, be upfront, like you said, not invest any additional time because there's someone out there that does
That
want what
wants
you
the
want.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's someone that wants what you want, but you got to start back over at ground zero.
Okay, that's fine.
Well,
And you got
the
to
sooner
detox
you
them.
start at ground zero, the better. I mean, work smart, not hard.
But then
Yes.
your body count is up 1.
But who said you're
Yeah,
who said you're
exactly.
having
Who said
sex?
you're having sex? You might not be.
Exactly.
Well,
You
in
may
a year,
be,
I
but
would
you
hope.
may not.
You-
Well, yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
shut up.
the likelihood is
Okay,
great.
we'll say the two of you are
As for me and my house, no.
we're talking about the two of them in their relationships. The other person is having sex.
Right.
But this is one thing. So one thing in all of that I'll say from a female perspective. For a female, she's going to pretty much have an idea in her mind whether she wants to be married or not. So if she's divorced, she's going to go through this whole decision of, okay, do I want to ever do this again? Is it absolutely positively a no for me? Is it, I'll do it again, but not right now. Right now, I'm living my best life. Or is it, you know what? I'm ready.
Right.
Let's do it again. They're going to already have an idea. So even in that scenario that you described, the true question is when you, Omar, have that conversation and say, I'm thinking about marriage with you, and she says, oh, I'm not. Is it, I'm not, nor would I ever consider it? Or is it, I'm not there yet,
Yeah, I
but
agree.
it's something that I would consider. Can we take a little bit more
And
time?
That is a good. That's a good
that's-
segue into the next part.
Oh.
Because are you guys willing to be maybes? And what I mean by that is because you're at a point now where they're saying maybe I'll consider marriage in the future.
I would be a maybe because anyone that I
But you're
date
still
is a
gonna be
maybe
wait-
too.
Okay.
It's a maybe. It's
Hold
not
on.
always going
I'ma
to be
let
a
you take
definite
over from
yes.
this, 'cause I can't deal with this shit.
Oh, okay. All right.
I would be a maybe. What's wrong with that?
Go ahead and take it, Carlos.
Okay, so I can see both sides of this a little bit because me, I can only speak for me personally. So I don't want to be married again. That's been my thought for about 2 years now. I mean, so I don't see myself changing it anytime soon, but it may change. I don't know. But I do understand where y'all are coming from, Omar and Tracey, because I do feel that you don't want to get into a situation where you're wasting time, especially if you've already been in a long-term relationship and it didn't end well, or basically you broke up. Then you don't want to go through that again. But I feel that if I were in a situation where I knew I wanted to take it to a certain place, and like let's say if I wanted to get married, and then maybe she didn't want to get married, maybe it's not me, but it's just the concept of marriage she just doesn't want to do. Now that I would be okay with. Mm-hmm. I think I would be okay with that. But if the shoe was on the other foot, if the woman really wanted to be married and I knew I could be committed to her, but I couldn't give her the marriage piece, I would leave. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because I don't believe in carrying anybody's resentment. Mm-hmm. Because to me in that situation, like I could handle it if it was me. Because I would be able to say, okay, cool, well, as long as I'm still with you, then it's still like a marriage almost, you know. But I wouldn't expect anyone else to have that same feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but and I think and I agree with you too. I think that's admirable that you would be that person and all this other kind of stuff.
No, it's not even a.
But
no, I'm saying I'm not carrying your resentment, so that might not be admirable.
And
that's what I'm saying.
You don't
like,
want to shortchange somebody.
Yeah,
you know, especially if you can't give them what they want.
But the way we just talked about the whole, like, I get what Carlos, because that's the same thing I was saying. They're not saying they don't want to be married to you or you. They're just saying, I don't want to be married, period. But you guys just stated that you would be willing to become maybes. If you wanted to be married and they said, well, maybe I will want to get there.
Yeah,
Maybe eventually I'll progress there. They are still placing you on hold.
I would have set a timeline. Okay, so maybe like a month from now, 2 months from now, like what does that look like?
And they're gonna say, well, I don't know.
Okay, then at that point it's like, if I know that it's up in the air, then for me it's like, okay, well, you kind of feel that they're kind of just putting you on hold. And why would you want to be placed on hold? Right? Nobody wants to be placed on hold. And so at that point, for me, it'd be a pretty easy decision to make.
See, but I and that's why I call bull. And I get we talking in situations that we're not in these situations right now. So it's easy for us to say, oh yeah, I will walk away from it. But I described a perfect situation where shit is good. The best relationship you've ever had in your life. You just don't have that piece of paper. I don't think it would be that cut and dry to say, you don't want to marry me, I'm out of this relationship.
Well, I just want to ask something to clarify for the listeners. When you say maybe, are you saying the person is saying maybe to the concept of marriage or maybe to that person? Because that's two different maybes.
Well, because it never was the person. So
okay.
They're having to say maybe to marriage.
Okay.
So it wasn't Omar or Tracey that they were saying, no, I don't want to be married to you. They're saying, I don't want to be married.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not you two. They're just saying marriage is not something I want. What we have is great. Let's just enjoy. We don't have the hassles of everything that comes with marriage. We can just be good the way we are. So if you go to them at 3 years and a year and a half and they say, well, maybe I'll be open to marriage, just not right now. To me, I think you still have decisions to make.
Yeah.
You do still have decisions, but that maybe is different from a flat out, no, I'm not interested, nor will I ever be.
Right.
Right.
And even with both of those, though, as time goes on, that person may change their mind. Hell, I might change my mind,
it might
decide, you
flip.
know what, I
Right.
don't want to get married.
Right.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, you always have to account for that. But for someone to come in flat out in the beginning and say, you know, marriage is not in my future ever. I just want to fuck. I just want whatever. Excuse my
Right.
language. But I just want to do whatever. If it's not in alignment with what I want, then why would I sell myself short just
Right.
from the jump? You're going in
But you're
already at
getting
a
everything
deficit.
that you wanted,
No,
except
I'm
for
not.
a ring.
I'm not
Because
getting
you want
everything
the
that I
marriage.
wanted
So
because
you
if
want the
I
ring.
ultimately, it's not even about a ring.
What is it about?
It's about a lifelong commitment to
Yes,
someone that
thank
has
you.
your back and everything. You have their
But
last
you're
name.
getting
You're
that
starting
already.
a family,
Well,
not
except for the
necessarily.
last name. Except
Not
for the
but
last
that
necessarily.
goes back
You're
to your
carrying on the
values,
family
like,
legacy. I mean,
yeah.
it does. I mean, especially if you are someone that is interested in starting a family and you want to do
Yeah.
it, quote unquote, the right way. I mean, not that women are doing that
But
necessarily
if
these
that's the
days,
case,
but
y'all are walking around fucking milking the cow, putting the milk in the glass, putting it on the porch, pouring it in because you're giving them everything that comes with marriage already.
Yeah, that's why, like, one of the things that I wanted to mention is that, like, for a guy, right, if you're dating somebody and you're already giving up the cookie, the guy's not going to want to commit because he's
Right.
already getting
Right.
what he wants sexually,
it's
right?
understandable. I
So-
wouldn't blame
That's a
them.
good-
Right, so, like, from that standpoint, I can see...
But not giving up the cookie is not going to make him want to do it either.
True.
So that goes both ways.
it's
It's
a
all
fine
about the
line.
guy.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
all about the guy. Not giving up the cookie is not going to force a man to marry you. Not giving up the cookie is going to force him to go get the cookie somewhere else.
Right.
Especially if he started out getting it and then you try
And
to
then
pull
you
it
try
a
to
lot.
pull back
Well,
Yeah.
that shouldn't even happen.
Yeah,
That's-
right. Because
You
that has
can't-
happened to
you
me.
can't
Can't be
close
mad
up
when
the
he
cookies
goes
yet
away.
Right.
after you don't start giving the cookie. So
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
going to be giving up the cookie
Yeah, start
from the
one way
beginning,
and start-
keep it going, and
Right.
just gamble with the fact that I may get married or I
Yep.
may not get married and whatever. But today's day, let's just be real with it. Cookies have lost their value in the eyes of women.
Absolutely.
In the eyes of women.
Can you
women
break that
are
down?
not. Sex is
They're-
not something that they just holding out anymore for marriage.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not something that they hold in high regards.
But
no more.
but that's a problem though, because the
It
way
is a
I
problem.
see it is like every time you give yourself to somebody, male or female, you're giving up something spiritually to that person. It's like you're creating like
A soul tie.
a soul tie. Yeah. So that's not like, yeah, society tells you that it's casual and it's no big deal, but there's some implications to that, right?
Right, and I think that people understand that there are implications to it too.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody want to live their best life nowadays.
And that's
And
that
everybody-
instant gratification.
And everybody want to try out the milk before they buy the cow. And that's both women and men want to say sexually if you're going to satisfy them before they marry you. Because sex is the deal breaker for both men and for women
Sex
as well.
and money.
And see,
But
and that's
everyone
those two
is
things.
selling themselves short.
yes.
Say that one
When
more time.
everyone is selling themselves short when you have sex too soon, because sexual intimacy is much better when you are mentally connected
Yeah,
with
that
that
is true.
person. And
I agree.
sometimes having sex too soon can block the possibility of even having that mental connection because all you're thinking about is the sex.
And what is
And
your
it blocks.
Yeah, what is your relationship going to be based on? Just sex? I
Right.
mean, you could have a wonderful sex life before, while dating, and yeah, you both are connecting and vibing. And once you commit to marriage or long-term relationship, you move in, kids come along. Like, if your initial relationship was just based on sex, that's gonna grow old real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, because what if you, instead of like focusing on the sexual part, you were actually focusing on what type of characters this person has, or what are their habits, what are their
Well,
values?
they want you to have good character. They want you to be a good provider.
Yeah, but I think
with
when
some
you're-
good puss or some good dick.
Right, but I
And
think
that's like number one. We want the good dick, a good puss first.
But
and then if you're a good provider, then we'll let you go in there. But you can be the best provider, and some chicks are skipping over you because your dick is bad.
Right. But I think overall, that's probably.
Am I lying, Tracey?
Nobody wants trash dick.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. TD.
But don't you think that has like a negative effect?
STD could be simply trash dick. No, we don't want that. We don't want no STDs.
Right. Of course, I think that it has a negative impact, and in no way am I encourage anyone to go fornicate. I'm a believer. I believe that's a sin. So I'm not encouraging anyone to go and do that. But I'm realistic.
Right.
And I know that it's happening.
Right.
So, and I do know the mindsets of a lot of women. Women mindsets have changed from back in the day. They talk about things and say things that they wouldn't say in the past because they feel more free to do it. Because the world has opened these doors for women to feel that freedom. And I appreciate that.
Feminism? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. The world is opening up to that. So they can say that and you respect women for their strength and ability to be honest. But sex it's like I said, I don't think sex is as big of a deal for women to have with men as it was 20 and 30 years ago.
Right.
Women can have sex with a man and then next date they break up with him.
Right.
But the quality of the relationships have also diminished because of that.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Situationships is what they
look
are.
at the divorce rate. Like 80% of women initiate divorce because, like you said, it's easy for them to like, all right, you ain't working, on to the next one.
That's what I was gonna say too about the whole divorce thing and just marriage in general. I think it depends on why the person doesn't want to be married, because. And I'm saying this because I ain't gonna lie, I had this in the back of my head when I got married. I grew up seeing divorce or hearing about divorce as like, to me, it wasn't so much of a big thing. Then when you add seeing it in society, you kind of had this thing, or at least I did in the back of my head, like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I wouldn't want that, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So if the person doesn't want to get married because they want that out, that's a totally different problem. Then that's an issue.
Yeah.
Because if you're avoiding the legality of marriage because you want to easy out, that's a totally different issue than somebody who just does not want to be married.
Right.
So I think that needs to be established too, because some people will say they don't want to get married and they use that as a guise to say, well, I don't want to get married because it's easy for me to drop you when I'm done.
Right.
Because that's the reality. I mean, you can be in a long-term relationship, but it's a breakup in a relationship is totally different from a breakup in a marriage. It's still a breakup, but it's you know, you don't have to go to the courthouse to break up with somebody that
But
you've been
I
in a
think too
relationship
that
with.
even depends on. I won't even say that it's different because I think it depends on the relationship. If you live with somebody, you eat and breathe them every day. It's almost like a marriage when you break up. You just don't have to go to a
Still
court.
different though.
Yes.
A committed
Yes,
relationship is different from a marriage.
But I'm just saying, like, if
yeah.
you're living, but because people
Even
who are
if you live
married
together.
are, just because they're married don't mean that they're sleeping in the same bedroom. Doesn't mean that they're interacting with one another every day. Don't even mean that they're staying in the house. So some relationships that are not marriage, it's easier. I mean, it's harder for some of those people to get out of those relationships than it is marriage because they put more into a non-marital relationship than marriage people put into their relationships.
No, I get that. I'm just saying it's mentally it may be, but the I don't know what you would call it. I guess just the basics or the technicality of it. It's harder to get out of a marriage. I mean, you can't fight that. It is. It's just harder to get. I mean, because it's like, I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying per se anybody, because to go to court. I mean, when I went to go file for my divorce, I almost got arrested because I had tolls that I hadn't paid.
Oh, gosh.
So that's a whole, which if we were just living together, then you just say, okay, well, forget you, I'm out, whatever, we done.
Right.
So, I mean, it's still, I get what you're saying, because it is still, there's a mental piece that you have to go through.
Right.
But the legal piece of it is
Yeah, the
is
legal
different.
piece is
it's totally different.
It's a chore in itself. So okay, so let me ask you this here, Tracey. So if you were with a guy, and this guy, you're dating this guy, or you're friends with this guy, and he wants to be with you.
Okay.
And he makes it known that he wants to be with you, and then you tell him all you want from him is a friendship, and he cuts you off. Would you be upset?
My feelings would be hurt. I would be upset, but it all depends on really how that conversation went. So was it that I want to be friends for now?
Tracey is big on this maybe. Right. Ain't nobody got time for no maybe.
But that every relationship is a maybe. You don't know what the end result of that relationship is going to be.
But in this situation, you're not in a relationship. You're in a friendship. He developed feelings for you, and he's making it known to you. I want to be more to you. And I think what people have to understand, so you and this guy have gone out on dates before. And I think, too, when people hear the word date, they automatically think relationship is the end goal. I think we all go on dates. Men go on dates with men. Women go on dates with... Because dating is pretty much going out, getting to know somebody. And that's what a date is. I mean, we say that all the time. Oh, I got a lunch date today. So it's going out, getting to know somebody. But when you start escalating it to another level... then it's a different thing. So you've gone out with this guy on a couple of dates.
Okay.
And after you've gone out, he sees that you're an amazing woman. He say, hey, Tracey, I want to take this to the next level.
Okay.
And you say, no, I just want to keep us friends.
Okay.
And he says, all right, then deuces. Are you going to be pissed? And what would be the first thought that come to your mind when he say, well, if you can't be in a relationship with me, we can't be friends? What's your first thought?
Put it on the spot.
My first thought? Fuck you, I need you anyway. No.
First thought.
So first thought, I have no filter. So I'll be like, well, go on then. But I think the interesting thing about that whole situation, and I have to look at it from my own perspective, when that man comes to me and says, hey, let's take this to next level, I literally will be that person where we're on the interview, that famous interview question. Well, what does that look like to you? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, what does next level mean to you?
Next level mean you and me. We together.
And again, you and me together, what does that look like to you? Like, how do you envision that?
That's
what do
fair.
you, because
Yeah,
I
because
can't
we just
automatically
fucking
say
or,
no unless I know exactly what that means to you.
But you've already friend-zoned him.
Then he a sucker.
I'm just saying.
So would you be upset if he made that decision and said, hey, you're not ready, I'm ready, so I don't want to be your friend. I want to be more than you, more with you, and if I can't be more with you, we're not going to be nothing at all. You're just going to say, okay, you'll be good with that?
So I think I would have to be okay with it. Yes, I would be hurt, but at the same time, if it is going to stress me out, it's not worth it for me. If you as a man can come to me and explain to me why, or if we can have a conversation about it where there's a clear understanding of where we're going next, I'm good. But if you just say, okay, deuces, I'm like, there has to be a conversation.
Well, what if he did have that conversation with you where you guys are going?
I have to respect him for that.
And then you still say, well, I don't want that right now. And
I have to respect him for that because I am not agreeing to what he ultimately wants.
Your loss.
It has to be, yeah.
Yeah, your loss.
Because if it's meant to be, it'll come back around.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and on the flip
I'm not
side,
coming back around. Your loss.
That's fine.
Your loss.
That's fine.
because on the flip side, you would make that similar decision as well, right?
Right.
Like, hey, you have a male friend and you're the one approaching him.
Exactly.
And you're like, hey, I want to take it to the next level. I want to be in a committed relationship. And he's like,
No, she wouldn't do that.
Yes, I would. Why wouldn't I?
You would 1 for the Father, 2 for the Son, 3 for the Holy Spirit. You'll go 3 years without the end goal.
I was
Okay.
engaged for 13 whole years trying to figure it out.
Those were in your younger days.
That's okay. Yes.
So, yeah, your
much
younger
shorter
days.
now. Yes.
Exactly. So, okay, Omar. So, if you met a woman, we're going to reverse it. So, you are the woman you are the man telling the woman, hey, I want to be in a relationship with you. And she just say, hey, Omar, I want to just keep it. We're just going to be friends. What is your next move?
yeah, it's like, hey, I don't need an additional friend. So, with all due respect, bye.
Not with all due respect.
So you guys, so you would say bye. Okay. So because you are what we described in the very beginning, an intentional dater.
Correct.
So you have a purpose. Just like the guy who I
Right.
mentioned in Tracey's situation. He's an intentional dater. So he cut her off because she wasn't ready to take it to the next level.
Right.
So, but you said earlier before the podcast that you wouldn't be a friend with a woman. What is your deal with being friends with women?
I just don't think that for me and my purpose, like I see
What
women.
is your purpose? Let's hear what your purpose is. So you can't have women friend in your purpose?
No, because like to me and in the past, and a lot of guys can, I can bet you that if right now there's listeners, males that have female friends, right? Females, call them up and tell them, and you consider them just friends, and test it. Be like, hey, dude, I want to fuck right now. Tell me what that reaction would be from that guy. If he's like, nah, we're friends. Like, what's the chances that he's gonna be like, nah, I just only see you as a
Where
friend.
you want to meet?
Well, depending on,
Right? Thank you.
depending on how
Thank
she
you.
look, he may say that.
Right.
And if she calling up a married homeboy,
But if it's just a friendship, then technically you should be like, nah, we're just friends. I don't want to cross that boundary. So what I'm saying is like the way males think, it's like with females, if I'm making you a friend, it's because I have an intention, right? Either,
no, I disagree, bro.
okay, in my experience and
So you're saying people of the opposite sex can be friends?
in my personal opinion, I don't think so. No, because
So when you get married, your wife can't have male friends.
no, hell no.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Yeah, you
Wow.
want friends? Hey, let's get you around a group that's like similar married female friends
So
and
all
vice
her male
versa.
friends before you, she's gonna have to cut them off.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
So
Can they be mutual male friends?
If it's mutual, that's
As long
a
as you
little
guys
bit more
are in
acceptable.
an
Yep.
environment together.
So this is what I.
That's
You
longer
make
than
sure
the
you
podcast. Woo.
right. You make sure you put that in your disclosure
Yeah.
when you start talking about.
Yeah, if it
marriage.
gets serious, yeah, exactly. But
You can't, and I need you. You have to say you can't have male friends if you're gonna be with me.
if
That
we're
might make her be like, oh,
if we're taking that next step, a serious step towards like marriage, then yeah, those things are gonna be.
So what will be your issue with your wife having men friends? Because I guarantee you, it's some women out there listening to this right now, and they just snatch their weave off.
Hey, that's fine. Maybe that's okay. We're not gonna agree on everything. Just for me and my expectations and my values, those are the
So
check
women
marks.
can't have male friends.
If I'm gonna commit to somebody in marriage, that's probably a no-go. Outside of, like you said, mutual friends, right?
But
I can actually understand that. And this is coming from someone who has a lot of male friends.
but would you cut your male friends off?
For marriage,
Yes.
yes.
wow.
Wow. See, that's
And
why-
that's hard for me because my best friend is a male.
wow.
But out of respect for my husband and for our relationship and what we are trying to build together, I don't need any distractions.
Thank you.
If that's going to be a distraction from building the greatness that we can build together, then it has to go.
That would be a deal
It's
breaker for
hard
me.
though.
Yeah, that would be a deal breaker for me too, and that's a whole nother podcast.
It
because
is.
I see so many red flags.
That's
Anybody
control
tell
to
somebody
me.
you can have some friends, whether because they'll start with the opposite sex, and then they'll start talking about your female friends if they feel threatened by them.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
that's a
the
whole
whole nother
nother
level,
podcast
yeah.
that I think is just like red
Red
flags. And I'm
flag.
not talking about you,
Right.
Omar, in general, but I'm just saying, yeah, that's like, so yeah, when you get that disclosure, you want to be married, say, and you can't have male friends and all this other bullshit, this long list of stuff that your first marriage taught you may not be a good thing.
Yeah, and
because we base
look,
everything off our previous.
Right, those are my expectations, and if it doesn't like align with this person's expectations or what they think, then it's probably not a good fit, and I'm okay with that, right? I don't want to like you said, Carlos, control. Like I don't want to come off as if that person sees it as me being controlling, then we probably shouldn't be together. But going back to your friend question, it's like, hey, I have a lot of male friends. I don't need any female friends because that need that I have with friends, like to have friends, I fulfill them with male guys, like male friends. And you know, I've tried having like female friends, and for me it always like goes into this gray area where I start catching feelings and I want to take it to the next level.
But see, that ain't got nothing to do with your friends.
What do you mean?
You catching feelings for your friends ain't got nothing to do with your friends. That got something with you.
That's
Ain't
what I'm
got your
saying. Know
shit in
myself that for me, what I consider friends are males.
Yeah, but yeah. But if you're basing it off on your experience with the opposite sex,
But you know
shouldn't
what? A
punish
lot of
someone
guys are
else
like that
because of
too.
that.
A lot of guys are like that too.
Oh, I agree
Yeah,
with you. But
yeah.
but those lot of guys that you're talking about, they have a lot of female friends. And they're sneaking and they're texting women and they're DMing women. They're doing that.
What do you mean?
That don't want their wives to have male friends. They got female friends. And they're sneaking and they're
Yeah,
talking
then
to
you're
them.
just being a hypocrite.
With that,
Right.
you said there's a lot of guys like that. Most of the guys that I know have that mindset, they are hypocrite.
Right. And that goes back to you as a person, right? Like, what standards do you have for yourself? What values do you want to live by? Right? Obviously, I'm not worried about what you're doing or those guys are doing. I know for me, like, and my well-being and my inner peace,
So
this
what
is how I
happens
want to
when-
live.
So what happens? And I know we got to go because we got to go. So last final question for you. So because this, like I said, we have to get you back on here for that. So if your wife has a female friend that you're uncomfortable with, then what?
Yeah, that's gonna be an issue. If it's like interfering in our relationship and that friend has different values and a different direction and it's causing a rift in our
But
marriage.
let's say, for instance, the friend is just single and she likes to party and all of this other kind of stuff. She ain't even in your marriage. She ain't giving your wife advice and nothing like that. But your wife admires her lifestyle.
Yeah, then that's an issue. That's an issue because
An
you know,
issue with the friend or with the wife.
with the wife.
Okay, we about
Yeah.
to go. All right, then. Yeah, good. Glad you got that. So, yeah. So, friend, you are safe. That's an issue
Yeah.
with the wife,
Correct.
not the friend.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a shot of truth. We go around. We do this here. Oh, let me grab this here. So, Tracey, what's your shot of truth? Well, you want us to start with Omar? Omar, give us your shot of truth.
Whoops.
On the topic, right?
Just any shot of truth.
Yeah, I would
Shots,
say
man. No.
with this, just get to know yourself, right, and stick to your values because once you do that, then you're gonna be able to see the red flags or what's acceptable based on what you're looking for in a relationship or marriage.
That's your shot?
That's my shot.
Okay.
My
Carlos?
turn? Oh, Carlos. Okay.
I'll be quick. So I would say my shot is know your boundaries, what you're willing to put up with, what you want. Be firm on that. But at the same time, you can't punish the person that you're with or that potential person to always bend to what you want. And if you're gonna do that, it's a two-way street. So you gotta know, like, this is how I think of things. Like, the more critical you are and the more things you have on your standards list, then that person that you're in a relationship can come back with a list that you might not meet all those things. So it's like it's a give and take to me. So just, if you're gonna put it out there that you don't want this, this, and this, then you have to be prepared for the other person to do the same thing. And then, do you like them enough to, bend and put up with it, whatever it is?
Yeah.
Can I add something to him?
Absolutely.
Carlos, you bring up a good point. It's like, we don't do a lot of this in relationships, but it's a negotiation.
Yeah,
you negotiate,
it is,
right?
yeah.
What, like you said, what you're willing to tolerate or what your red line is, and if it doesn't fit, it's a deal or no deal.
Tracey, what you got for us?
And that kind of goes in with my shot of truth. You have to know what you want, be willing to communicate what you want, and communicate often. You have to communicate often, because what you want today might differ.
So true.
And what your partner wants today might differ tomorrow. I mean, you have to communicate and continue to communicate, and don't be afraid to do it. And be able to handle your own truth and their truth.
Yeah.
That transparency is key.
Yeah.
Or else you're going to end up with somebody you don't want to be with, and you'd be stuck like Chuck.
Well, my shot of truth is, if you are casually dating and you come in contact with a purposely dating person, run from them. Because the two of you are on different paths, and be honest and good to yourself, and be honest and good to them, and let them go pursue what they're looking for, and you just keep your body count up.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. So, if you're listening to this podcast,
YOLO.
What's your number? What's your number?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this podcast, click that like down there on the bottom. Click that like, and then also go out and follow us on Instagram. The conversation is always happening on Instagram. And then another thing too that Carlos and I talked about. This is something we're gonna start maybe once a month doing, like a Zoom call with people. And the people on our panel, and we're going to discuss some of our podcasts. So y'all can call in, participate. It's not going to be recorded, but you can call in and talk to us about some of the stuff we say on the podcast. But with that being said, we are out of here. Peace.
Peace.
Deuces.